Okay, so just can everyone see the slides?
Kind of all red.
Okay, then it's
We
sharing
can
the wrong
see all
thing.
red. So that's
Yeah, this is
now.
the beauty of presenter view, is that it. Let me try this again.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I just am a perfectionist and need to share the thing I want to share. Okay.
Right. So it's just like Jake,
Yep.
yeah?
Like even
Okay.
stories about my perfection tendencies.
Where are
I'm
you,
staying
PowerPoint?
quiet.
There we go. Now you should be able to see the actual slide.
That's good.
Beautiful. Okay, so just a few things. A lot of you have been on many of these things already, so I don't necessarily have to tell all of you about this. The forums have come up several times over the last few days because that's the best way to interact with people in the community that are already using WeBWorK. So if you don't know how to do something and you've tried figuring it out, the one thing I will recommend is search the forums before you post again. There's a lot of things where the answer's already there. The other thing that someone mentioned was that there are some hurdles around getting an account set up on the WeBWorK forums. This afternoon, I enabled logins with your Google account or with your Microsoft account. So if you have any of those, it should work. I was having a little bit of trouble with my university Microsoft account because it wants permission from your institution to share your information. So there may be extra steps if you're trying to use a Microsoft account or a Google account that's associated with your school. But personal ones should work. Otherwise, you can log on. You can use. You can create an account on the wiki, and that will work on the forums. And if you have an account already, it'll still work. So that's a great place to get help from anyone in the community. If you find issues, depending on where they are, there's a couple of places to report them. If you find a problem with one of the questions in the open problem library, I've given the link here. And again, we're going to try and compile a document in the next couple of days of all the links that people have shared over the last 2 days and post that somewhere. So if you're not catching all of these links, we're going to do that as well. I'm just going to fire up the chat. So Bugzilla is what we're using for bugs in the OPL. That's the first address. If you find something that's broken in WeBWorK or you have a feature request, there's GitHub issues there. Again, you have to create an account. If you have trouble with this, you can always post on the forum and usually someone will transcribe it for you. But if not, they will give you instructions on how to do that yourself. I will throw a plug here for if you have problems or code that you have created and you want it included in either the OPL or in WeBWorK, you can submit a pull request, which involves knowing something about Git and GitHub. So I'm not going to go into details on that now, but again, if you have that, you can reach out to us or you can post on the forum. We've also got some discussion in a few minutes about improving that. And the last one is just the generic email for the WeBWorK project, which someone on the executive is checking, and we will try to get a response to you. Again, we're not necessarily going to fix everything that you send to that email address, but if you have a question for the executive, that's a good place to go.
Did you have the wiki on that?
No, because I threw this together half an hour ago.
Okay, but that's another.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of a dumping ground for anything where you don't know.
Yes, documentation-wise, the wiki is the place to go, and it's webwork.ma.org/wiki. Again, as I said, we're going to compile all these links and put them in one big list for people after the conference is over.
And like all wikis, it's badly in need of organization. So anyone interested in it,
that's on page 3 of this slideshow. So the other thing is that we've tried a couple of different mailing lists. And we are trying to find something that will be useful to the community. So Jake's already started the poll here. You should see the poll on your screen for how often you would like to receive. If you were to sign up for this mailing list, what sort of frequency do you have in mind? And I've just thrown some generic options up there as a rough guideline, because I figured anything more frequent was too much and anything less frequent was not frequent enough. So if anyone has thoughts on, please submit the poll. We'll leave that up for about another minute, and then Jake can end it and share the results. And then I'll open it up right now to, if we started sending something out, whether it was weekly or monthly or quarterly, what would you be interested to hear?
Is it an open question, or are you putting up a poll?
No, this is just an open question because it's a free form response. That's not easy to do polls in Zoom.
I would be curious to hear here and in the periodic email updates on what you see as the kind of the main chunks of development that are taking place in WeBWorK. For example, a couple of years ago, we had an intense discussion in one of these meetings, I think, about in sort of incorporating more of the learning management system aspects into WeBWorK, improving, adding sort of a spreadsheet-like grading system or whatever. Because at the moment I export everything elsewhere, right? Our integration with our Sakai is very rudimentary, and Sakai, in fact, does not accept, exportation from WeBWorK. We can get the class list into WeBWorK, but we cannot go the other way. So I download everything into my own spreadsheet. I have a rather complicated cross-linking and cross-identification of students, and then I only submit the final thing to my LMS. I really would love to kind of reduce the number of pieces of software that I need to use to generate, to grade my class, especially in a large class that gets really hairy. So a good spreadsheet incorporated within the WeBWorK, where you can create, for example, columns of manually entered data, would be great for me, because then I could, like somebody else here, deliver the whole lecture set or whatever, the tutorial sets through WeBWorK. We tried to do that with our labs, for example. We had pre-lab quizzes embedded in WeBWorK, but there was no way to submit the lab report in the same place. If I could bring it all, so I was willing to just manually enter the grades from the lab reports somewhere in the WeBWorK, and there was no way to do that. And so I would love to have that, or integrated with some other system better, but I don't know if it's of priority to anyone else. So I'd like to know what else is going on.
Yeah, you talk about gradebook. We started 6 years ago. I had from CUNY, and we had a gradebook, and Andrew was there, right? and still it's after a year, and we find out it's still really difficult to use. We do have a great book there.
It isn't. That one is in the GitHub. I didn't put it in any of the releases because partially it was too difficult to use, and partially it was kind of customized for BCC, and I didn't see how to uncustomize it right away. So, but I mean, it's a project actually listed as for somebody to work on. The other thing is that if you the connection between WeBWorK and Moodle is actually even better than LTI, and so WeBWorK automatically exports its homework stuff into the Moodle gradebook, and that's what kept me from developing a separate gradebook. For part of what kept me from developing a gradebook for WeBWorK is that the one in Moodle is pretty adequate.
Well, you have to understand that I have no control over what the university chooses as their LMS, right?
Well, ours uses Blackboard, and so I just don't use, I send Blackboard to Moodle, and I run my own instance of Moodle.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, I want to steer this discussion back towards mailing list. I mean, again, I have lots of thoughts on gradebook and LMS features, but we're going to get into future directions as well. So, I mean, one is features. The other thing that came to my mind when you say what's being developed, there are also a lot of features that people don't even know are there. I can name a few off the top of my head. Periodic randomization, some people do and don't know about. The JITAR sets, the just-in-time and review that what is his name? Jeff Gailey, thank you, developed. And then there's all sorts of these things that people just haven't turned on because they don't know they're there or haven't used. So I mean,
you've just come up with a weekly rubric, my favorite feature. You know, my favorite little used feature.
okay,
This,
yeah.
this sounds like something that, you know, kind of what the blog was supposed to do, the kind of thing where weekly presentation of that kind of stuff. I shut down what was our mailing list when I had to change things over from the old MAA server, because bringing up mailmen on the new server was going to be a bit of a problem. And it's a question of whether Google Groups or something would be better. But what I've tended to use those from is, I actually don't even care if the messages come in hourly as opposed to every day, as long as they're well tagged. They just get shuttled into my mailbox on that stuff. And I look, if I'm not busy, why I look through them to see what people are doing. I don't read an awful lot of it, but it just allows me to see what's going on in the community. But the tagging is important because there are other days in which I don't have time to do any of that stuff, and so it just piles up in my mailbox.
So, I mean, the other thing is that I know I have a number of colleagues who send these things to essentially the void. They send them to some separate folder that they never ever look at. And I think one of the things we can do to get people to actually stay engaged and read this is to get the frequency right and to put relevant content. And I mean, it looks like the frequency is sort of tied between weekly and monthly. So, I mean, maybe we go with biweekly, who knows? This is, again, something that we'll take back with the executive. And also, if anyone is interested in helping out, Monica, can I ask, not Monica, sorry, Monica or Marianna, one of the two of you, can I ask them to contact you if people are interested in getting involved in sending these messages?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
they could also contact through the WeBWorK project at gmail.com, and that'll also get through to us. So either Monica or myself directly via our university emails or through the WeBWorK project at gmail.com. One, any of those options.
okay. Does anyone else have any other thoughts as to what would be particularly useful to them on a newsletter?
How about a problems technique, Colin? Tricks you might want when you're authoring problems.
I like that too. So the other thing I guess we have to think about, and this is something for us to take back with Marianna and Monica and whoever else is interested, is soliciting these things from the community. Because we have some ideas, but there's also people out there that we don't talk to every day that have lots of great ideas as to what can go in. And I mean, maybe that can be something in the newsletter, a quick way to submit your thoughts on something you'd like to include. So anyway, I'm going to move on because I want to leave lots of time for other discussion here. Just a few projects that are actually underway here to let people know about what is going on currently in the community. One that we've heard some about off and on is this internationalization translation thing, getting WeBWorK to work in other languages in other countries, things like that. Enrique has worked very hard in Spanish on this. Nathan has worked in Hebrew, and I put an et al on all of these because I know that there are other people working on these. I just didn't have the names in front of me. So if you were interested in those, you can get in touch with those people, or you can get in touch with us and we can direct you to the right people. One thing we're going to be starting in the near future is something that Mike alluded to with the wiki, is cleaning up both the website, all aspects of our website. So we have a landing page that we're going to be switching over to something more modern because it hasn't been maintained in a while. We haven't figured out exactly what that is, but if you're interested in helping with that, or if you have feedback on what should go on the front page of WeBWorK, the WeBWorK landing page, not WeBWorK as you use it, but the WeBWorK project's home, then please get in touch with us and we can make sure that that gets included. We've started a project to go through some of the resources that are out there for helping instructors who are new to WeBWorK or are needing help with tasks. So we brought on Victor Cyrilson from CUNY. I don't remember which campus, but one of the
It's at
CUNY
multiple
fellows.
campuses.
Okay,
Yeah.
one of the CUNY fellows to help curate the videos that we've already found in various YouTube channels and other places. So if you have content that you think is appropriate for the whole WeBWorK community beyond just your institution, then get in touch with me or Marianna and we can make sure that that gets included, because what we're finding is that every institution makes the same set of videos to some degree. So, I mean, you get the same, if you're the WeBWorK guru at your university, you get the same questions that I do and that everyone else in this meeting does. How do I change a grade for a student? How do I check what a student entered? How do I extend the date? You know, all these usual things. So we want to try and make one central place that everyone can just link to. And we want to engage some more people to make sure these are good quality and that are willing to keep them updated and stuff. Those are the ones that are underway. The next one that we're going to talk about is, and this is, I'll probably pass this over to Jake, is that Rederly and the WeBWorK project are working together on ways to improve the OPL. How can we make it easier to submit your content, easier to find what you're looking for, and just overall make it more useful. So with that, I will kill this slideshow and I guess open it to questions first, but then pass it back to Jake.
So I have a question about submitting to GitHub. One of the things that we thought of was to try and make it so that you could upload something directly from, say, the editor page in WeBWorK into GitHub. And the barrier seemed to be that you absolutely need a GitHub account in order to do that. And this was 3 or 4 years ago. GitHub was a fairly rare thing, and requiring a faculty member to have a GitHub account in order to upload things was a bit of a barrier. Does anyone know if there's any workaround from that, or which ways in which they could upload something to an intermediary, which would then upload to GitHub?
Well, so, I mean, I think I'll throw Rederly under the bus here with, it's something that we could definitely build, right? Where, and this is, I think, part of what Jake has in mind, is that you build an interface where you say, I'm ready to share this problem with the community, and then the rest just happens in the background. And it doesn't, the commit doesn't necessarily come from the person who submitted it, but that's captured somewhere in the data associated with the problem. So when you submit a problem, you include who the author is, what institution it came from, and then that just gets submitted possibly by some generic GitHub account to GitHub.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking. You know, the once again, this is something that if anyone's interested in this work, we're having bi-weekly meetings. LibreText is also in those meetings about how we're going to be building that out. You know, we just did I've kind of alluded to this before, but we did the render announcement, which was the standalone render, which was kind of the first collaborative project. And this is what we're going to next. I think that this is a much bigger project. So I don't necessarily think that this is something where, like, you know, in a couple months, we're just going to say mission accomplished. I think that this is going to be kind of an ongoing discussion there. But we do meet bi-weekly if people are interested for the development of that. The thought process is that we want to, and Mike was kind of alluding to this, is, you know, make it as frictionless as possible to share content if you want to share it. And then also to make updates to that content. We're talking about, you know, we're still kind of thinking formats, but maybe like a vote up, vote down sort of system. So instead of saying, hey, these are you know, these are, you know, the existing problems and they're kind of static. You know, if there's an error with the problem, you know, you don't want to just have it be a bottleneck where it goes to one person. You could make an update and then it could kind of be a vote up, vote down to verify the problem rather than just being a few people. You know, the thought process being the quicker we can get content fixes out there, you know, the quicker, you know, kind of the better everyone's experience is going to be. But I'm also cognizant that, I think it was Sue who brought it up earlier that, like, you know, you don't want content changing on you either really, really quickly. So, you know, having a way that, you know, your content kind of can stay the same, but people can make updates on top of that. You know, it will really require kind of a restructure of how we're thinking about the OPL. So that's some conversation that's happening, and, you know, thinking through the metadata on what would be on each individual, each individual, you know, question to make that happen. But I think that that's kind of a broader, you know, I think that that's one piece in a broader trend that we want to talk about, which is, you know, yes, like, yeah, OPL reorg is definitely one, but we also want to be having the conversation going, because I know the OPL reorg is probably a little bit, you know, that's probably for the people who are a little bit more technical, maybe more interested in problem authoring. You know, we also had pretty amazing discussions this week on pedagogy, equity and inclusion, you know, exam format, you know, I don't know, like oral, you know, there's so many little subtopics that aren't directly related even to just the technical aspects of WeBWorK. So something that we've talked about doing is kind of doing these town hall style events. You know, some can be focused on more technical aspects and some can be, you know, like the OPL reorg, but some might be focused on more pedagogical aspects or, you know, thought processes. So, you know, I kind of wanted to open it up to the group too and see, like, what conversations do you want to have going forward, both from a technical perspective and, you know, a non-technical, just kind of like leveraging the community for thoughts and around pedagogy perspective. And how frequently do you want to have these discussions?
I think someone said something about monthly discussion on authoring section. I think that's a good idea. Amazing. Yeah, I think that's from Andrew. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, and hi. Just from the translation perspective, I think having some sort of like town hall meetings will also help a lot. I mean, it's just hard to know where to start. It's a big project, so you don't know where to put your energies in first. And I mean, I just feel like having spaces in which a group of interested people can just start chatting might get things moving.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess a bit of a meta question here is, how many concurrent things should we be trying to plan for? Because, I mean, we can do authoring monthly at the same time that we're also working on other things, whether it's the OPL translation. I mean, we don't have to wait for one of these to happen. But I also don't want to overload people, right? I don't want to have 4 meetings a week for different topics.
Maybe I could throw out a couple of, you know, options. You know, one option I was thinking of is that we kind of have, you know, a monthly meeting, a monthly town hall, and that focus changes every time. And that might give people the opportunity to kind of, you know, show up if they're interested in volunteering for a particular project, where, you know, maybe we can say the focus of, you know, this month's town hall is, you know, the international languages. And then, you know, we put out the call, and those who are really passionate about working on that project could kind of have the space to talk, discuss, organize themselves, maybe elect a leader, and then decide on what the meeting structure might be moving forward from there. So that might be an option, where we have these, you know, focused town hall meetings, and then kind of, it's kind of a working meeting where we organize the troops. And, you know, another option is, and I'm just brainstorming, I'm throwing out options where, you know, we have these town hall meetings, but maybe at the same time we have kind of in parallel, and again, I'm concerned about what you said, Danny, overload, where we have maybe an in parallel, a pedagogy, you know, seminar that happens, you know, maybe once every 2 months or also once a month. And then we have, you know, periodically a problem authoring session. So I can see these three things happening, where problem authoring sessions, monthly meetings for organizing certain projects, and then maybe a pedagogy seminar. And again, they could all happen in parallel, or maybe just we stick to once a month and we rotate between the three, you know. So I would love to hear people's thoughts on that.
Well, one possibility is to have a monthly meeting having a two-tier structure, where, say, the first half of the time slot is a discussion for newbies, you know, and one of the technically savvy people or particularly passionate people makes a presentation, but that also is part of the theme of that day's meeting. So, you know, Jake could present something about the new editor that will soon be incorporated into you know, mainstream WeBWorK, and then, you know, related things on how do you render things, how do you test, for example, what you wrote actually appears the right way. What's the extent of testing that you should be performing after you created a problem? That is the topic of the second half of the discussion, and there it's a free-for-all, and people can get involved if there are outstanding issues identified. But I think themed is very important. I think it could be more than one theme, but a single theme per day would be great, I think, because then I will skip some. Okay, I'm not going to be involved in some internationalization aspect of it, even though I could contribute there, but I just don't have the time. But I would be involved in others more so, right? My 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I agree completely that we have to make sure we target these, because I don't want to drag, you know, ideally 100 people would be involved in the whole overall project or community, but I don't want to drag those 100 people to every session, because like you said, they're not going to care about some of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how about there's like some, I mean, there's two topics that were mentioned that were like coding problems and pedagogy. That sounds, maybe they could work better if they were thought like a seminar. I mean, if you have like a WeBWorK coding seminar, I mean, I have sometimes felt really proud of some problem I coded, and I'd be very happy to give a talk on it to other coders. And I mean, maybe that's a way to get those things running, and the pedagogy seminar could also be, I mean, if you don't get people who want to talk, to show their stuff to other people, I mean, the seminar structure sort of helps to bring people to the place, because people want to show something they're proud of, at least on those two topics.
Yeah, I quite like the idea, and I think it works really well for the problem authoring, because, you know, again, we've seen some things this week, right? I mean, even like I'm thinking of Monica's examples and some of the stuff that Andrew was showing. We could spend an hour with going into a little bit more technical detail on Monica's CalcPlot 3D and embedding graphics. That's a great topic, and maybe, you know, she wants to do that with Paul Pearson if he's willing, to talk about embedding graphics in problems. That's 1 month, and then the next month it's scaffolding problems, and then the next month it's something like that. And I think there's enough people out there that have done cool things that we could keep that going for a while.
So if you haven't already seen the poll in the chat, Danny put another poll in the chat, so you can put some suggestions for possible focused meetings.
And you
One
can
thing-
also upvote existing ones.
One thing that I want to talk about as well, because there's been a couple things I've seen in the chat, which, the first, like, how do we make WeBWorK more, inviting, and welcoming for people that are maybe a little bit less, less tech savvy, people, I think that a lot of the people who are, kind of the ones speaking are, usually have a bit of a programming background. So does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I don't think it's about authoring, though. If you have some people writing this code, where would they put it? Where would they put this in here? Would there be any public server for WeBWorK per se, where anybody can just dump a code and have somebody actually look at it and see if I'm making mistakes and something that I'm trying to generate is not there? And I can see maybe Paul will look at it or Danny will look at it and say, oh, you are missing semicolon here, something like that. Is there any way that if you want to, I like the idea of having a seminar that, you have something cool, like Monica said and Andrew demonstrated before, and share with everybody. But if, as a newbie, I think I saw someone just said something like that, and then you put a code on, but what you really want to put out is not exactly what is coming out. This might be an idea that when you dump it somewhere, somebody can actually, just like what Danny said, if you're having a problem, you can actually log in and send the information. But if you are doing this one, without something like that available to a newbie.
Yeah. So I see two different things there that that are both beneficial. One is getting help on if your code doesn't work, right? And a lot of that is happening through the forum right now, and maybe that's not the best place. If we can find a better way to do that, then I'd be happy to. Partly because, again, it doesn't have any sort of interactive PG editor or submission tool or things like that. The other one that I could see being very beneficial is helping people with best practices and better ways to do things, right? So you write a problem because you've had some really neat idea and you're not very good at the code and it just barely works. Can you get help from the community on doing it the best way that PG can do it? Because that's the other thing. I mean, we all do this, and we've heard this in the last couple days. You take an existing problem and you edit it until it does what you want it to do, and you don't know if there's a better way or a cleaner way or a more efficient way to do that. So, I mean, that would be something that would be beneficial as well. And I think also having a good environment to do this in, rather than just cutting and pasting your code into a forum message, and then other people having to cut and paste that into their WeBWorK server.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Remember when I saw Monica, the way she embedded the 3D into the WeBWorK, I was a little bit, jumping, because I love the idea that sometimes when you're trying to show something to students, sometimes they're visual. They have to see exactly the interaction. So if they can see it, that'd be great. I mean, I'm so interested in knowing exactly what sent. And yesterday, when Andrew was talking about how do you ask the students and how do you put the information in, not like, oh, 2 + 2. Now you are giving the graph, but you're not writing the. I love to see something like that. But just like what you said, we have to find a very nice portable place that people will get the answer and people will go there. Because sometimes when you put it in the general area, you have 1,000 people there, but maybe somebody even they don't even look at your problem. So, and then you leave that alone because you get frustrated, you can't move forward. So we should have some type of direct communication where somebody will actually be able to check. And if there's something like that, then that'd be cool for members, I think.
So thank you, Ramon. Drew and I have been talking about this for a while. Before we actually started up the CUNY WeBWorK Fellows, Drew and I talked through what the meetings might look like. And, one of the, models that we had was a biweekly code review. And that's kind of what we wrote up in our proposal. And then we realized it might not be feasible because the collection of fellows that we had were at a variety of levels. So we may not have everyone kind of on the same track at the same time in order to have the best outcome for a code review. That could be something that we kind of revisit, this thought of having, a set time, a schedule for a code review. Another way of viewing it could be WeBWorK office hours, where, we rotate through the community and, we promise to be, for an hour of our time in the month, we dedicate the hours to a WeBWorK office hour. And then anyone who's coding and has issues can pop into that open session and ask questions. I'm sorry, I missed that.
WeBWorK tea time, tea times.
Tea time, WeBWorK tea time. That's a better name than office hours.
Yeah, the reason I say that because I'm involved with IBL, inquiry-based learning community. We have tea time every week. Anyone can jump on. So today tea time, 9:00 p.m. Fine. So it's 7 p.m. and 11, 12, and so, and anyone can jump in. Sometimes only 7 people, sometimes 30 people, sometimes only 3 people. So it doesn't matter. As anyone that you want to make a critical mass for our community, you have to do something like that. Anyone, yeah, in tea time you will review code. I really like Paul the coding of those problem exam, scaffolding exam, free handwriting response. That's really cool to learn how to do that and to tweak on it. So yeah, that would be good. We start small scales and then go on. If you call town hall meetings, people scared. What's a town hall meeting?
Yeah, what does that mean?
to official. At tea time, just people join together. So you before you host your tea time this week or next week, and you give a topic of what you want to talk about. And so anyone interested will join in. If they're not interested, so not join in. So that's fine. But we just have to keep going. Right now, inquiry-based learning in Northeast, we got so good. So every week there's always someone hosts tea time. Yesterday was 7 p.m. and tonight is 9 p.m. So it is get more people involved. I think I
love that idea.
Yeah, if Andrew make a code review, I can get a couple of my faculty interested. They're really interested, so maybe they can join Andrew's code review session, learn something.
Yeah,
like that, Danny.
Yeah, just like remember when Kerry was going over some code that was written by him. Yeah, so I mean, Kerry, Andrew, Jake, Danny, anybody who knows how to code 1+1. I know Michael was saying, I mean, the first time I met him, he was saying, okay, if you can write Java, then you can write Pro, you can write this one. So it's just way of putting things together. So and that'd be cool if they have something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll echo, a couple people have already echoed what Patricia was saying about newbies. We have to make sure that at least some of the sessions are well below the level that interests us, because I think a lot of the people in the room here are already past that point where we know how to write simple questions. We've moved beyond that. So, and I mean, this is also Edward's idea, right? Do
Danny,
we do these?
Danny, please talk for yourself. I'm below that level.
Well, and again, I mean, this is it, right? And I guess to Edward's point, right? Do we do this as a single session, or do we have a session that's just how to write a multiple choice question, and then the next month we have a session that's how to embed interactive graphics?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, in working up my intro session for this workshop, I ended up writing a whole bunch more than I could ever, cover in an hour. So, one of the things I had in mind was like, yeah, start from a completely, bare bones problem and look at how do you create a dynamically generated image. These things that I think, a lot of problem authors would want to do, but it does take getting used to, and basically spend an hour going through how to gradually make your images more sophisticated, right? Or like you said, Danny, like if you want to do multiple choice, start out with, okay, we want to start with a very basic multiple choice question. This is what it looks like. What are the kinds of ways in which we can, trick this out, using extra, choices, randomly selected incorrect choices from a larger list. And, there's ways to take something that's a basic idea and expand on it and make it more sophisticated and overall a better problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other thing I'll say is that there's this sort of base level that you have to get to before you can do anything fancy. And that takes more than an hour. I tried to do it for my colleagues in an hour and discovered that, I mean, I could get them to edit a very specific class of problems within 1 hour, but they still don't understand contexts or answer checkers or things like that. So another thing that would be very useful is if we could get together and, I mean, we have some of this already, make up a starter guide, whether that's a combination of videos and web pages that are just like, here's the basics on how to get to, level 1 of writing WeBWorK problems.
And Danny, I want to toss in, I don't know if you know the platform called echo360.ca. It's split. It splits your screen. Do you mind if I share?
I'm fine with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll share. I guess I'll share the.
We'll charge you rent. We'll get you a bill for the screen real estate.
Okay, so I don't know. Can you see this window?
Yeah.
All right. So this is in one of my classes. This is an embedded video which is instructional video, which is a split screen always. On the left-hand side, there's one thing. On the right-hand side, there's another. And these could be a live video and a software being done, or it could be multiple windows when you cut and paste from one to another. I have, this is for the lab videos. I also have some general help on, let's say, setting up the software, unboxing the device, and what's nice about this particular platform is at the end, the video creates transcript. You can also create transcript. So this is for visually impaired students, for example, right? Or orally impaired students. They can actually read it generates these automatically with no effort on your part. So we found that this is a very handy platform. So I can make it larger, and when you run, and then of course it shows both things. And look at the Zoom functions. I'll mute the thing, otherwise it's all right. So there's some video action happening on one side of the screen, and the software is demonstrated on the other. This is a very useful way. I'll unshare now. I don't know how to do this. There it is. So we found that to be very useful for instructional videos at the base, especially at the most basic of levels. So if we're making an effort, unboxing of the bloody thing, right? I mean, who'd think that you'd need that? Well, in a class of 350 students, turns out you need it. And so we should choose a good platform for instructional videos, and so that we only need to do them once. And maybe we can actually literally steal some videos from other places. I know UBC has a big collection of WeBWorK intros on.
Yeah, and Lethbridge started their own as well.
So we could incorporate them and edit them if you, and Echo 360 actually does allow you to do good, quick editing with very little
What
shallow
kind
learning curve.
what kind of site is this? Who's running it?
Um,
This is Mike.
Is that an app?
360.ca is what I use.
Yeah, but who's running it? Is it going to stay around for a while? Is it,
It's been a
turn
while.
to surface?
It's been around for a while, as far as I know. Yeah, we subscribe to it at university. Our university just buys into that service, so for us, it's available within Sakai, within platform, within LMS.
Okay,
Yeah, and I mean, our university has invested in a competing product that does most of the same things. We're using Yuja, which does all the same things. And I mean, Mike's question is valid, and I know at least with ours, you can export your video. I mean, they will host it for you, and you can just run it off their site. But if you choose to, you can also download it and just have an MP4 of your own.
Right. That's true for this platform as well.
Yeah, that is Kine based, I think, because we have that at BCC. Most of my videos, that's exactly where I put it for my class to go. I think we have Yuja. I think it's a Kine based, is that it?
I have no idea. All I know is that I go there and log in and it lets me do what I need to do.
Yeah, I think for us at BCC, we have that, and we log in with the email that we have. So
yeah, they hook into your whatever your university system is.
Right. Andrew, is that Kine based?
I'm not sure.
Oh, it's Yuja.
Because I mean, the main site for the one we use is yuja.com, and then they've given us, our own URL.
Right. Yeah, that's the same thing as BCC.
How is that spelled?
I put it in the chat.
Yeah.
My chat disappeared from there.
As soon as you find your chat, let me know, and I'll share my screen so that it goes away again.
I think for us, it's Yuja at BCC. We put it in the chat also.
So from the discussion, what I'm hearing are, I think we're kind of starting to kind of funnel down the ideas where we have kind of the idea of like a monthly meeting that's focused, that's perhaps two-tiered, where we have an intro level for the newbies, and then and the second part, it can maybe have some more advanced techniques building upon what was presented in the first part. So people can choose to join both, or maybe just join for the advanced portion. So that may be one kind of meeting that we might want to have. This helps us focus where we may have some people presenting some material and learning, or we can just have it as a working session. I guess we can decide, what is relevant for that time. And then there's also, the idea that we're hearing of kind of like a WeBWorK tea time or an office hour, scenario where we have someone kind of on call, where if people have questions about code or have specific issues they're working on, they can kind of dial in and get feedback and get help, kind of like a help desk almost. But what a nicer name. Like that was kind of another idea that was floated out. So and then there was kind of the third idea of the code review or the code camp. So far, is that accurate? Kind of what I'm hearing from the crowd?
So Monica suggested maybe breakout of those two different groups.
Oh yeah, so like if you had a topic on writing code for a particular type of problem, you could have like a beginner's version and an advanced version or something, and people could kind of self-select into the breakouts. I don't know. Yeah,
well, I mean, Andrew's talking about better code and best practices. That's another discussion of it in its own. I mean, it's come up a few times in the last couple days. Should you use PGML? Are you still allowed to use begin text, end text? Anyways, I don't even want to open that can of worms right now. But I'm leaning in favor of having sort of separate sessions for the newbies and the more advanced. because I think they're far enough apart that I don't know that you're going to attract the whole audience. I don't think you're going to get those two
probably be
groups.
okay to alternate between the two.
And that's what I
think
mean, right? Is
The
that
monthly
instead of,
meeting should probably, it can have a multi-tiered structure. So, you know, there could be more technical discussion in the second half of related topic, not necessarily this one. But what is in the first half could be also alternating month to month, sometimes more advanced, sometimes more elementary.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the analogy with a math seminar, I think still holds. I mean, you always want the math seminar to be accessible at the beginning, and then you gradually start losing people. But I mean, this has been practiced like this for centuries, and I mean, there's a reason for it. So, I mean, the same structure might also work. You don't kick out the people who are not following a talk after a while. They might just doze off or something, or start looking at their phones.
One other thing I wanted to quickly bring up, I know that we're coming up on time, but one thing that was really interesting, at least personally to me, is that, you know, sometimes we have kind of, you know, panelists or, you know, back-to-back discussions that would, you know, kind of contradict each other in terms of like, hey, this is my approach and this is, you know, a different approach, you know, and, you know, each kind of had validity and like, you know, thought process behind it. So one thing that I'd love to do more of as well is just kind of share those, at least for me, like I think it was so fascinating to hear the different pedagogical aspects of it, because that really does affect the underlying tech too. And it's like, you know, what one person might want the tech to do and what another person might want the tech to do is different. I think Paul Pearson, who's on the call, talked about like, what problem are we trying to solve, you know? And so like that, I think is a really interesting discussion too, that can sometimes get lost sometimes in the weeds of things as well. So, you know, just kind of thinking through at a high level to, you know, finding ways, you know, like as we have these technical discussions to also kind of like take it, you know, I want to have like both. I think that there's room for having both the in-depth kind of more weeds discussions and the more high level discussions to be like, you know, is this tech going the direction that we want it to go as an occasional check to put in place? Because I thought that was really interesting, just hearing all the different perspectives.
Yeah, and so when we follow up, so we'll be following up with all of you. We'll look at, you know, the results of the poll. We'll think about the feedback you gave us during this discussion, and we'll, you know, I guess type up some of these meeting notes and then come back at you. And we'll try to plan, for the first couple of, you know, monthly meetings, and we'll see how that goes. We're gonna, you know, pull together all of these resources that we saw throughout the conference. We'll be sharing that out. And we may actually follow up with a survey because not everyone was able to attend this last session, and we definitely want to hear everyone's voice about what they would like to see moving forward. So, you know, following up after the conference, we'll be doing that. And then, you know, once the dust settles, so to speak, we'll be advertising the next couple of sessions that we plan to have. And, you know, we're really excited. We were really excited at this opportunity for the community to come together and hear everyone's voice and hear what assessment looks like across the US. So thank you, everyone. This has really been so amazing. I learned so much from it.
Absolutely, same here. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Gary,
Have a
another
wonderful
minute?
weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jake, can you linger for a second? I have a quick question I want to ask you.
Yep.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll stop
Bye, everybody.
recording.
Thanks.